Alrighty, folks, we are live here on YouTube. The Mets, I actually just tweeted at them. I said, don't tweet out the final score. There's no need to do that. But guys, I didn't even want to do a stream intro today. Normally, I post my intro that goes for like 2 hours to meet the Mets on. I just couldn't muster to do it after an absolutely pistol whip of a loss tonight to the Atlanta Braves. 13-1 is your final. I have no clue how well this show is going to go tonight, nor do I even know how long I'm going to go for. I don't think it's going to be pretty extended or anything of that nature. But even after a blowout loss like this, Mets fans, I felt that it was justified that we have a discussion because a lot of things are happening in Mets land right now, especially regarding the injuries to this club. So that is really what I want to emphasize in tonight's show, along with the fact of, should us Mets fans at all be concerned from this absolutely devastating loss in game one of a 4-game set here in Atlanta? For me personally, no, I do not feel that way whatsoever. I'm glad that it seems like hopefully the Braves got their runs out of the way here in game one, and the Mets will surely have better pitching in the games going forward. Charlie Morton versus Taijuan Walker tomorrow. Going to be today, maybe by the time this live show ends. But I want to thank everyone so much for first chiming in. Appreciate every single one of you guys being in here. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe on as always, folks. Like I said, this is not going to be a long show. I'll probably, how I normally do my post-game shows and recaps, breaking down everything that you guys need to know from this Mets loss today. Once I'm done breaking all that down, folks, I'll probably just wrap up the show there. Normally, I cut things off for people on replay, so that way if you're watching this after the live show and you don't want to watch a 1 hour plus long show, I cut it in half for you. For everyone watching tonight, I'm just going to end it once I have everything that I need to say off my chest. Nothing more than that. Again, this was just a blowout. There was nothing good about this game for the Mets whatsoever, unless you were Jeff McNeil, who had a simple 4-for-4 piece, had 2 doubles, almost a triple because of the throwing error by Acuna today in the 5th. That's the one Mets highlight we have here in the highlight reel. And Darren Ruff making history tonight, being the first position player in Mets history to pitch not 1, but 2 scoreless innings for the team in Queens. So yeah, a lot of takeaways from tonight's game. Surely not much of any positives, but to say, am I concerned about this team going forward? No, not in the slightest. The Mets are still matched up to have great success in this series. I expect them to, and I have to give credit where credit's due. You know, even with the bizarre weather, there was a 1-hour rain delay. Cookie Carrasco coming out after that really did bother me. I have to wonder how much of it all that had to say. And his injury tonight that we'll be getting into here shortly. But Spencer Strider, the schmuck who said, you know, the Mets only get lucky hits. Granted, the Mets did get a couple infield hits on him tonight that weren't luck. They just liked him out down first. However, I will give credit where credit's due. Always Spencer Strider went 5 strong against the Mets. Gave up 1 earned run. Again, wasn't anything fancy, was surely beatable. The Mets definitely could have got more things going, but with some bad weather, the first day after having, of course, traveling to Atlanta and having no off day, I'm not surprised that the Mets got off to a slow foot here in their first game against the Braves. Reminds me of their first game against Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, last time that they matched up, right? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when the Mets were in Atlanta last, they lost that first game because of a lack of offense. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, by all means, I'll gladly eat that. But I know that the Mets, especially in their first game, when traveling, doing these trips, I don't expect too much offense. I expected more tonight. There's no denying that. I'm not here to make any excuses or anything at that juncture. But we all knew that heading into this game that the Mets would be dealing with some injuries. And the weather, the rain delay, surely only made things worse for the Mets. For a Mets team that was down 3-0 in only the second inning, with 2 outs, grinding out at bat against Dansby Swanson. The rain delay starts. You're thinking, okay, maybe the delay can help the Mets here. No, it actually did the complete opposite, thanks to, unfortunately, Carrasco's inevitable injury that we saw, and then everything that transpired later on in this game. But man, oh man, brutal loss, guys. So let's just go from the top down. Let's break it down, because as we enter tonight's game, folks, we discussed it on Bleav in Queens episode 14 that came out earlier today. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already. Myself and Anthony Recker, and one of the biggest topics that we had was the potential of the Mets calling up Brett Beatty in that third base spot now that Luis Gourmet is going to be out of the Mets line for a minimum of a month plus. He's probably not going to return to the Mets for a good 6 weeks, because remember, with him out with injury, he needs to ramp up with rehab too. So he's on the 10-day IL right now. The Mets also have Tomas Nido, surprisingly, on the COVID IL, unfortunately. So the Mets would have 2 key players, you could rightfully argue, entering this big 4-game matchup against the Braves. They bring up, of course, Marrero, who was their infield option, that 31-year-old veteran who has a not even 200 career batting average, not even at the Mendoza line in baseball. He's done nothing crazy in AAA. He started the year with the Long Island Ducks of the Independent League. This guy the Mets just bring up because of his infield versatility. Thankfully, he doesn't hurt the Mets. It's not like that they had to make a transaction for the 40-man or anything like that, so they didn't have to waiver anyone. Perez, also the catcher that the Mets traded for back prior to the trade deadline from the Pirates. He made his debut later tonight because, of course, the Mets, they had nothing going offensively. So once it was a blowout, they just put James McCann on first, had Marrero in there starting in short or second, whichever position it was, and had Perez in the backstop. So the Mets already with some little controversial decisions, and this is my take, and I want to know everyone else's here. Before we get into the nitty and gritty about this atrocious loss for the team in Queens, guys, also make sure to smash that like and subscribe. And as always, greatly appreciate it. Hopefully this is the only post-game show I have for you guys this week, in which it's it's a travesty. It's completely lopsided, not even remotely close. I never go live after blowouts like this, but you know what? It's against the Braves. A lot of injuries happen. I'm not doing this for viewership. I'm not doing this for revenue or anything of that nature, and that's never my main focus to begin with when I'm going down and sharing my reactions with you guys. But especially tonight, I really just want to share my thoughts here. That's my main focus. So the Mets to not bring a Brett Baty or Mark Vientos. I can't say I'm all that surprised, especially with Vientos. Buck Showalter did discuss and say that those guys were in discussion up until this morning, and that as of today, neither Baty or Vientos will be with the team, but he did emphasize today, and with Yorme being out for at least a month, at minimum now, with his groin injury, you have to like the chances of the Mets bringing up Brett Baty either before the week's end or maybe sometime next week. I'd imagine what they're going to do is roll out Eduardo Escobar, see how much of potential at all he can bring them offensively. A guy that still cannot swing from the right side of the plate right now, so he's not a switch hitter right now. He's just a lefty bat because he still has that side soreness, that tightness I had from the game back on Friday in which I was in attendance, in which they lost to the Phillies in extras. So you have that going. Eddie's glove not looking good. He had another error today. If these ailments and these inconsistencies continue at the third base position, and you get literally no production at all from Marrero, he's just a roster spot, filling nothing more, nothing less. The guy didn't even throw for the Mets as a position player today. It was Jared Ruff, who again was insane. 14 pitches and got himself 6 outs because he's an absolute stud. Best reliever, best pitcher for the Mets today. Why? Because baseball, right? But going back to my point is, I don't like the Mets' decision here, bringing in Marrero, a guy that, again, is he going to be any better than Brett Baty? I don't think so, but it's clear right now the Mets did not bring up Baty, one, because it was short notice, which I understood. That makes plenty of sense. Will we see Baty tomorrow or before the end of the series? Anything's possible, right? But I will say for sure that I feel pretty confident that the Mets may bring up Brett Baty while Yorme is still absent. There's a lot of time here. Hopefully they don't decide to run with Marrero long. I think that this is something that they just have him as a placeholder for a couple days. It sucks that these couple days are during the most pivotal series for the Mets right now, down the stretch outside that Phillies matchup on the weekend. Then you got the Dodgers at the end of the month. I think you got like one more matchup against the Braves in September, then that's it. So I'm not happy about this, don't get me wrong. However, I don't think that this is going to last. I don't think that Mets fans should believe this either. So for those reasons, I'm not too concerned on the Gourmet replacement front, as long as we hopefully notice that this is not a long-term thing. If this stays a long-term thing, that they have an automatic out like himself, and Marrero say does nothing, Cato comes in and does nothing. Guys that only have infield versatility, that's the only reason why they're prioritizing them, and they have some major league experience versus a Baty. Well, with Brett Baty raking at the AAA level, and who does have a superior glove to Mark Vientos, can handle himself at third base, I would rightfully argue that Brett Baty can't be much worse than Eduardo Escobar at third right now. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he comes in and he's an errors machine, but you have to actually find that out before you can truly make those assumptions further. So Brett Baty, I'm not going to get hung up on the idea that he's absolutely not going to be with the Mets before the season ends. I still think there's a very strong chance of that happening, mainly because of the fact that Gourmet's out for a month. If Gourmet was just out for, say, a couple days, day to day, I don't see it happening. But with Gourmet being out as long as he is, anything and everything will be evaluated and considered by the Mets, and I trust that they're going to make the right decision in the end. Just sucks that we know we're going to have to grind out and deal with these nobodies for, at minimum, probably this Braves series, if not further, before the Mets may make a change there, assuming that those guys don't do anything to really give you production. But let's see here. I did see a donation here in the live show. Then let's get to breaking down this Mets loss. What went wrong for them tonight? Let's talk about Carlos Carrasco and his injury. How concerning is that right now? I'm not feeling too optimistic, but again, I'm always a guy that is looking at a thing from a glass half full. So I'm hoping, truly hoping that Cookie's going to be all right. 111th off night for my boy Escobar. Love him so much. Yeah, JV. I mean, Eddie's not even playing fully healthy right now. I'm not even going to gripe much about Eddie's offense because the guy isn't even fully healthy. Now, granted, even when Eddie's been healthy this year, and thank you again for that donation, he has not provided much at all for the Mets. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter if he's healthy or not. He has been more often than not an automatic out, which is funny considering he's the reason why the Mets have a run today, because he had an RBI ground out driving in McNeil from third. But guys, let's get into the game. The Mets start off. They got an infield base hit. First batter, Brandon Nimmo grinding out a bat against that being, and yes, Mr. Spencer Strider, who all of us Mets fans love. Cue the sarcasm, right? Mets wouldn't do anything the first. In the second, you would see Swanson with a double, Starling Marte with a nice catch thereafter, and right. So we get to the, that was in the first. Then we get to the second inning, and this is where runs start to tack on. Cookie Carrasco not looking sharp with his stuff. The slider, especially hanging it a little bit, the fastball a little flat. Contreras with a solo bomb. And the Braves, I mean, talk about a troll job. Got to give credit where credit's due. William Contreras, this absolute schmuck, thinks he has the right to come out to Narco by Blaster Jacks. I know he's done it all year, but again, it doesn't mean that's right. It's always been terrible. There's only one man in baseball that is known for that song and will continue to be known for that song. So I thought it was funny that the Braves were actually playing his song as he's riding the bases. They're going to be as petty as shit, and I love that because when the Mets actually step up in this series and hopefully at minimum split it, when you got Max and Jake for the final two games, ties a big toss-up right around today or tomorrow whenever you're watching this right now, even though I do like the Mets' chances against Charlie Morton because they had tacked on against him a bit. Regardless, though, playing Narco, Timmy Trumpets, who is known for that song, is literally going to be at Citi Field before the end of the month in hopes that Diaz comes out of the ninth and he's going to do the trumpets live himself. If that isn't a clear definition of who this song is for and should be for only, I don't know what is. But Contreras gets a solo bomb off a Cookie. Then back-to-back, it's Eddie Rosario, who hasn't done much this year, however, has done well against the Mets, especially in Atlanta. He had a big game, I remember, on one of those 3 games against the Mets in Atlanta a month ago and had a nice game here again, too, with a solo bomb. Acuna with an RBI double. Canna misplayed that ball. Canna, the clouds were coming in and looking like it was about to rain. The lights were looking bad. And Canna, who's, say, in the outfield, right, you have him say, here's Canna, right, if we're going on field. And this is where the ball dropped, way behind him. So Canna had to go back. Michael Harris III, the ridiculous young speedster, phenomenal player, 21-year-old rookie for them, goes first to home. And just like that, the Braves put up a 3-piece in the second. You get the rain out for an hour, and Cookie surprisingly comes out there to finish off this second inning. He does it without giving up any more runs. However, he exits the game. His final pitch, he's wincing. And Cookie Carrasco surely looks like he exited tonight's game with an apparent oblique injury. Now, it's been reported by the Mets as of now, at the time of you guys watching this, it being live here at least, that he does have left side tightness. Now, my biggest concern with Cookie here is that if this is at all an oblique injury similar to Max Scherzer, the Mets just lost Cookie Carrasco for the remainder of the regular season. Now, thankfully, praise the heavens that the Mets do have some quality pitching depth. David Pearson is still lined up as a starter. He's lined up to pitch in the doubleheader this Saturday against the Phillies. So he's being utilized still as a starter, which is good. It's great that the Mets have that right now, especially in the scenario that Cookie's out for a bit. You have Trevor Williams, who has a 3-ERA this year, as a 3-ERA in just under 100 innings so far in his Mets career, being traded at the deadline last year by the Cubs in the Javi Baez deal. Williams, we don't love him as a starter. He's a far superior reliever. He has like a 1.5 ERA as a reliever this year. Regardless, the Mets do have pitching depth. Trevor McGill's being utilized as a reliever now, ramping up, getting back off of his rehab stint. He'll be with the Mets within the next month. But still, Cookie Carrasco, I just hope for his sake, being a veteran in his mid-30s, and I really hope that's not anything serious of an oblique injury, because if you have that, there's nothing you can do about it. Even with Scherzer when he came back, kind of like 2 weeks ahead of schedule for his sake, it's not an easy thing to ramp up from because you can't rush obliques if he does, in fact, have that oblique injury, if it's a strain or anything along those lines. So knocking on wood, fingers crossed, praying to the baseball gods that Cookie Carrasco, it's nothing too serious. But in the assumption that he is out for multiple weeks, then we have to look and pivot to the David Pearsons, in which David has gotten the job done time and time again for the Mets as a starter, just doesn't give them that much length. That's the biggest difference between Cookie and David so far this year. Trevor Williams can eat those innings, of course, and Tyler McGill when he is available for the Mets out of the pen as, say, a long reliever now. So the Mets have options, but I am certainly concerned for Cookie's case here. And once Cookie crumbled, guys, not just giving up those early runs, but his injury, so did the Mets. But before I go forward, Ed with the donation. Spend the past hour talking Mets fans off the cliffs on Twitter, Wardy. We got our pitching matchups for the rest of the series. Geez, I need a beer. Have yourself a beer, Ed. Enjoy your night. I mean, Mets fans, for anyone and everyone that thinks the sky is falling, guys, yeah, you're just coming in to try to rag on the Mets while you can, because games like this happen so few and far in between. So for all the petty fans out there that just somehow thrive off of them not doing well, then tonight is your night. Congratulations. Have yourself a cookie. No pun intended. I don't know what else to say. But after Carrasco crumbles, the Mets bring in Joely Rodriguez. And Joely had a scoreless third. Not bad. However, we got there to the fourth, and that's where he was getting himself in a bit of a jam. Grissom with a single. Michael Harris with an out. Grissom gets the third. Medina enters the game at that point, and then Ronald Acuna Jr. right away with an RBI double. Dansby Swanson with an RBI single, and he would steal second base. The Braves would tack on 2 runs there in the fourth. In the fifth, Jeff McNeil make hits. The only guy outside of Brandon Nimmo that actually knew how to barrel a ball today. Had 4 hits today, 4 for 4, 2 doubles. His first double of the day was beautifully placed in the right gap, and Acuna just overlooked that, went over his head. And Acuna with a piss-poor throw back in the infield, and that ends up getting McNeil all the way to third. It was a double, throwing error made it a triple, and he gets home because Eduardo Escobar ground out, guys. But then we get, unfortunately, to the 6th inning, and this is where the game just is completely lost, guys. 8 runs for the Braves scored in the 6th. Adonis Medina did not have it today. Medina, who has not pitched from the Mets, and I don't even know the last time Medina pitched from the Mets out of the pen, right? It felt like forever. He's looked really good at times this year. However, he got absolutely destroyed in a spot that he has been in a while, and only 1.1 innings. Adonis Medina gives up a total of 6 runs, 5 earned, and they were just back-to-back, guys. So go down the laundry list quick, and then I'll just continue my thoughts about what we saw from not just Medina, but Givens as well. You saw d'Arnaud reaches on error. Grissom with a walk. Harris with an RBI single. Acuna RBI double. Swanson 2 RBI single. Olsen RBI single. Travis d'Arnaud with a 3-run home run. That was, in fact, hit off of Michael Givens once he came in the game. And a Grissom double. Man, oh man. I mean, look, Adonis, he's not a guy that's expected to be on the Mets playoff roster for their bullpen. But Michael Givens, who's supposed to be the guy for the Mets that they acquired at the trade deadline, has been anything but consistent, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure Givens will be better his next time out. He pitched yesterday too. You always have to keep that in mind. The Mets had little to no arms. They just had to throw guys in there, but the Braves are just teeing off, man. And the fact that the biggest deadline acquisition the Mets made to address his bullpen as of now is Darren Ruff. What more do I need to say? I was a Michael Givens truther. I was very happy about that move. I still am confident that he can get the Mets some good outs down the stretch here, especially against lesser opponents. But as of now, he's not a guy at all that I trust in high leverage situations, let alone against these bigger matchups in the NL East. He's a guy that I want to see out there when the Mets have the easiest schedule in baseball in September. Their easiest schedule of the entire season, rather, against teams like the Pirates, against teams like, the Reds, the Marlins. I mean, the bottom feeders of the league. That's where I want to see more of Michael Givens. I don't have this type of confidence in which I was hoping to have once he first arrived in Queens. I mean, I was there for his first outing. I was in attendance in D.C., thinking the Mets were going to lock up that win with ease, and then he's given up, 5 earned runs in that first game. Again, I don't want to harp on that much because he wasn't even with the Mets for 24 hours through the trade, gets sent to D.C. right away. He's thrown into the Sharks right away. He wasn't dealt a good hand there, but still, Michael Givens still needs to be better. It's unfortunate to see how he has looked so far. Just a lot of hangers, not looking great. And again, Darren Ruff was the nicest part of the Mets today, guys. 2 scoreless innings. Literally only gave up 1 hit. And it shouldn't even been a hit. The schmucks that is the score, whoever does the score for the games, gave Robbie Grossman a base hit when it was a clear ground out. And James McCann, who was playing first base, might I add, in case you guys don't know, James McCann is a catcher. I'm not sure if you knew that, right? James McCann throws behind Darren Ruff, and because of that, he gets on. How in God's name is that not an error? Darren Ruff should have had 2 clean innings. So I hope that gets changed, honestly, because Ruff deserves better. Absolutely atrocious. The ump pissed me off a lot tonight, too. He had an expanded strike zone so much for the Mets tonight in the sense that they were getting called strikes in out of nowhere. But for the Braves, God forbid, it felt very lopsided. This entire game just did not look like it was, the game was never going the Mets' way from the beginning, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and make excuses. The Mets did not play well today at all. The offense simply did not show up. The rain delay threw them off. I'm sure they had a little jet lag coming from Queens. Cookie Carrasco getting hurt was surely their demise. Even with him not looking good early, I was still hoping that, okay, maybe the Mets can get 4 to 5 decent innings from Cookie Carrasco so we can just eat those and we don't have to completely murder the bullpen. But unfortunately, anything and everything went wrong for this team in Queens tonight, folks. So my biggest takeaway is the sky falling? No, the sky isn't falling. No one should think the sky's falling. Well, the Mets surely need to ground themselves and bounce back nicely tomorrow, and they have a great chance to do that. Taijuan Walker on the bump. Of course, he's only faced the Braves once this year, and he did give up 8 earned runs in 1 inning. Couldn't even get 1 out in the 2nd inning in Citi Field when the Mets lost at only 1 game out of the 5 games against Atlanta. The Mets are 4.5 up on the Braves right now. This series is still massive. There's no denying. Ty, even if he does labor a little bit, you have to like the Mets' chances offensively, bouncing back now against a Charlie Morton, in which Charlie Morton has an over 7 ERA, north of 8 against the Mets this year. They teed up on the veteran left and right. And unless, again, as Recker said in our podcast that came out earlier today, unless he has that breaking ball truly going as something special like he does from time to time, you have to like the Mets' chances to have a nice offensive bounce back tomorrow. And then, oh yeah, games 3 and 4, you get Mad Max, who's always going to be locked in, and you get Jacob deGrom. It sucks that we don't have Nito for these games because Nito is the best defensive catcher for the Mets. McCann's had his ups and downs this year. I mean, I think losing Nito is going to hurt us Mets fans more than we realize right now with him being on the COVID list out of nowhere. And Gourmet, too, guys, not having that infield presence sucks. Who would have thought that Luis Gourmet would have this type of impact on the Mets now in the middle of August as we originally were heading into the season? I don't think anyone thought that to this degree. Gourmet's been a huge part of this Mets team's success, both offensively and both defensively and offensively when needed for those clutch opposite field hits, whether it's soft or hard exit velo. He's done a great job spraying the field, especially opposite. So we'll see what the Mets do. We'll see how long of a leash they give, Marrero. Or are we going to see a Brett Beatty call up in the near future? Time will tell. But, guys, I do want to get to a donation before we wrap up the show. And, again, guys, my apologies. I'm not going to be answering much questions for long or anything of that juncture tonight. I really just want to get this kind of rant out there and share my honest opinions about this blowout. I got to say, guys, if there's one big takeaway I have for tonight for the team in Queens, it's the fact that I've never felt this confident about a Mets team after getting pistol whipped. I mean, absolutely bitch slap, pardon my French, left and right by the team that they're battling with to make sure who's going to win the NL East this year down the stretch in August. If this was 2021 Wardy or 2020 Wardy or any previous year Wardy, I'm shaking in my boots. I'm absolutely a wreck right now. However, no pun intended to Anthony Recker, right? But I'm the complete opposite. There were so many valid reasons, at least from a pitching standpoint, why things did not go the Mets' way tonight, from a jet lag standpoint, from the weather standpoint. And again, I'm not going to use those as much excuses because at the end of the day, one team executed on a lot of those things while the other team didn't when they both were dealt similar cards. But for the hand that wasn't dealt the same to the Mets, to the Braves rather, that the Mets dealt with, I can understand those struggles to a degree. Let's just hope that they bounce back and show some offense tomorrow. As long as they show some offense tomorrow, we'll have their chances. Same thing with 3 and 4. Again, this is a Mets series that you hope they win, but at worst, if they split, all Mets fans, including myself, will not be griping about that one at all. The Mets have yet, knock on wood to this point, lost a series against an NL East opponent this year. They've tied or won every single series against NL East rivals. That's huge. That tells you so much mental toughness about this club, and I still love their chances for certain of coming in and at minimum splitting this series, if not winning 3 or 4. Braves made a great statement. They're riding high, but man, oh man, a lot can change in a 24-hour span, and I fully expect that to be the case. And hopefully you Mets fans feel the same to a certain degree. Let's just see how much of the loss of Gourmet and Nito for the remainder of this series at minimum will impact this team's play and defensive prowess from the backstop to, of course, that great infield magic that you normally get from Gourmet. It really sucks not having him for a month, man. I'm not happy about that at all things considered. But give a big guys, let's give a big birthday shout out to Tyler. Hyping the shout for Tyler. Love the name, from one Tyler to another. I hope you have a phenomenal birthday. My birthday's at the end of the month, so we got some similar birthdays. But hyping the chat to Tyler Bargain. If I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize. I normally butcher people's names. Let's get some love in the chat for Tyler. Hopefully you have a better birthday tomorrow, my man, than you are today. Of course, assuming you're a Mets fan, right? But hopefully our Mets get a W for you for your Bleav birthday. No less appreciate Shaman, and thank you so much for letting me know about your birthday. I appreciate that. Hope you had a great one, all things considered. Ed with the $2 donation says, used one less reliever than Braves and non-top guys. Exactly. Yeah, again, I'm not concerned here. I'm really not. The only thing I'm concerned about is the injuries. The injuries is the only thing that I am locked in on. I'm like, okay, what's the severity of Carlos Carrasco, right? And Nito's on the COVID IL. Let's hope that he's bouncing back and feeling just fine once he can get off that in the next week. It just sucks that the Mets don't have these guys right now. All right, guys, before I get out of the show, to my 200 plus live viewers, thank you all so much, everyone chiming in. Continue smashing that like and subscribe button. Greatly appreciate. I did see one more comment here. Oh, hype it, guys. Let's get some love in the chat for James. It's him and his wife's 19th wedding anniversary tomorrow. I'll shout you out again, James, as long as I see you in the chat. But if you're not, I understand, because you're probably busy having a great dinner, great night with your wife of 19 years now. That's phenomenal. Congratulations to you. Always great to see long and healthy marriages. Phenomenal stuff. So hype in the chat to you as always, James. You're a great supporter on the channel. But one thing I want to ask everyone here in the live show before I get out of here, same thing for people on replay. Let me know in the comments below. Do you expect Brett Baty to be called up? And do you want Brett Baty to be called up? So a two-part question. One, what is your expectation from the team standpoint? And two, what is your personal hope, right? Because for me, I have the expectation that Brett Baty will be called up before the year's end. That almost feels inevitable for me. Again, the Mets have emphasized that at this juncture, they won't be, but anything can change in a short period of time, whether that's a couple days from now, a week from now, whatever it may be. I think Baty will make his debut as long as he stays consistent at the AAA level, because he's not dropping off the way that we've seen Francisco Alvarez, for instance, have his fair share of struggles when moving up to a higher league like AAA in Syracuse. And again, Baty is someone that I think that the Mets will surely consider. They have already. And I like Vientos a lot, guys. Don't get me wrong. Vientos just doesn't have the glove, guys. Vientos' glove is somehow even worse than Baty, to the extent that he is a DH, and the Mets have DH covered. Now, God forbid, but if an injury were to happen to the Vogelbacks or the Ruffs of the world, then that's where I think you have more of that prolonged discussion of a Mark Vientos call-up. But for right now, he's not a guy that's going to give you length at the third base position defensively. Brett Baty might not be a stud with the glove, but he surely has a nice arm, and he'll be able to command things far greater than what Vientos can currently give you at the hot corner. But yeah, see, we have a lot of mixed opinions here in the chat too, so I'm curious to see what everyone has to say. Appreciate that, guys. That made your birthday. Oh, I'm very happy to hear that, Tyler. Thank you so much again for chiming in, brother. Happy birthday once more. Think about Lastings Millage. And no, don't bring Lastings Millage into this discussion. This is not something where I view that you're rushing. And the reason why I say that is I'm someone that hasn't just prospect hugged plenty this year, but is also someone that has not been in favor of bringing up guys premature. However, the reason why Brett Baty is enticing is, one, the Mets have a clear hole right now at the third base position. Eduardo Escobar, even when healthy, is not giving you consistent production offensively or defensively. And two, Brett Baty has proven at every level so far that he can handle it just fine. Now, if Baty came up to AAA this year and absolutely did nothing, could not adjust his bat to ball skills, and could not adjust his defensive ability, then we don't even have this discussion. It really just comes down to his personal performance thus far and the handful, albeit a small sample size thus far in Syracuse. However, he hasn't skipped a beat, and unless he falls off a cliff, which again, anything can happen over, say, these next couple days to a week in AAA, he's proven as of right now that he can handle taking that next step. The same way that, in a somewhat similarity, the Braves have proven that calling up a Michael Harris when needed and calling up a Vaughn Grissom, who only had a handful of games at the AA level this year. As long as these guys are talented and are progressing every single league that they've been a part of, there is little risk when it comes to bringing up Brett Baty and having an impact I think at most you get a nice spark plug for this team down the stretch. You give him experience. And if he does struggle, then you bring him back down and he realizes what he needs to work on, knowing that he has a taste of the bigs, And even then, I feel Brett Baty is a guy that once he's brought up to the Mets, I don't think it'll be an easy thing for the Mets to send him back down. I think that he will adjust far better than an Alvarez or even a Vientos to an extent right now, just because Baty's bat-to-ball skills are superior. His ability to spread the field and his ability to be a contact machine. Vientos and Alvarez, the biggest one, are so swing and miss this year. I love these guys. When they barrel the ball, it's going easily. 450 dead center. These guys are phenomenal, right? Great bat-to-ball skills when it comes to strength. However, their ground ball rate and their swing and miss rate far greater than Brett Baty right now. So for all those reasons, I want a guy that feels like he has the eye that could be compared to the MLB level and someone that, again, has that ability to really grind out those at-bats versus being someone, again, that is very swing and miss and looking for that home run ball constantly. You're not getting that with Brett Baty. The home runs come naturally for a guy that can either pull that bad boy or spread it for some nice oppo power. He has a beautiful lefty swing. I'm excited to see his time in Queens whenever that's going to happen. But again, that's all my breakdown on this. He's not even our number one prospect, I know, but Brett Baty is the most realistic prospect for the Mets right now to be called up. He's higher than Vientos and he's higher than Alvarez for all the reasons I just described. It's not because I dislike Alvarez or Vientos. I love them. Alvarez is my favorite prospect on the Mets. He's the guy I'm most excited about. No denying that. But there's also no denying that these guys, with the current role that they would have on the team, don't match up as well as what Brett Baty does right now for what the Mets need and what his potential impact could be. Again, that's just my stance there for you guys. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But with saying that, though, everybody, I want to thank you all once more for shopping in the live show. I'm going to wrap things up now. So for everyone here on live or on replay, continue smashing that like and subscribe on. Help us get to 200 to 300 likes at any point here in the show. Greatly appreciated. And make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this brutal 13-1 loss to the Atlanta Braves. Let's see how the Mets do in Game 2 with Taijuan Walker on the bump, trying to bounce back after a brutal loss himself versus these Braves, in which Charlie Morton is on the opposing mound. And hopefully, for the Mets' sake, they can continue to tack on for the veteran right-hander, in which they've done so well against earlier this year. But until then, guys, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. This is Wardy signing out. And no matter what, even after a 13-1 loss, let's go Mets, baby. I'll see you guys again real soon.